All right, we'll start with this story from about 16 years ago. I was a sophomore in college, and I'll never forget this day. It was February 3rd, 2008. And I'll always remember it, not because Eli Manning defeated Tom Brady and the Patriots for the first time, but because this was a day that really changed the trajectory of my life. It's when mental health became so important to me.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Spirituality Simplified YouTube channel. My name is Sam Caber, and in this episode, we're going to talk about intuition, discernment, and listening to the whisper from your soul. So as a reminder, this YouTube channel is all about providing educational content, breathwork exercises, meditations, and visualizations. If you're digging this video, make sure to hit subscribe and like this video. So with that, a little bit of context, I was in Arizona for a keynote speech, and the client that hired me to do the closing keynote for their full day mental health symposium had been experiencing a lot of different challenges in the past year. One of which is they lost 7 of their employees to suicide. Very important topic. As I was preparing for this speech, I thought about how could I really serve this company, this client, to the best of my ability, right? And usually I like to meditate or do some breath work, but this opportunity I had was to go to a place called Optimize in Tempe, Arizona. It's an amazing place with cold plunges and with saunas and all kinds of biohacking tools. So as I sat in the sauna, I had my intention to really just receive information that I could be the vessel for the highest and best good for this client. So as I sat there just to clear out my thoughts and everything else, that is to meditate, I began to receive this message. And this message was to share my story with suicide, my story of being a survival of suicide. And honestly, this was about 5 hours before the keynote. So I wrote an entire new opening for the keynote, and I'm going to share that opening with you guys here in a second. But what I really want to encourage you to think about is receiving information. When it comes to discernment, intuition, listening to the whisper from our soul, if we find ways to get quiet enough through breathwork, meditation, whatever it might be, you will clear the mind and you can get that direct access from your higher self. So just to kind of close this, after you watch the video, I'll come back with one more lesson. So here's the video of the opening. Enjoy.
You see, back then as a sophomore in a party school, Chico State in Northern California, we actually weren't doing the college thing. We were actually watching the Super Bowl, if you can believe it or not. And there was a bunch of us sitting around the couch after the game was over, just watching the post game. And there was so much commentary around family. Because if you remember, Peyton Manning, Eli's older brother, well, he was the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts at the time, and he won the Super Bowl in 2006. So the commentary was like, oh, Peyton Manning must be such a proud older brother because here he is seeing his younger brother win the Super Bowl, and their father played in the NFL as well. So there's this big theme about family and like being a proud older brother and like really a feel-good story. So we're all just sitting there minding our own business and just watching the post game. And all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. It's a heavy knock. And we're like, what's that? And we open the door and there's our friend Jeff. And our friend Jeff is the older brother to Pete. Pete, who lived at the house with us. And Pete was in his room. So we open up the door and there's Jeff. And Jeff is wearing his cowboy boots, his Wranglers, a camo jacket, and a bright red shirt with white lettering that reads, Sunday Fun Day. Right. So imagine that. Cowboy boots, Wranglers, camo jacket, bright red shirt, Sunday Fun Day. Looking ridiculous, obviously, right? And also looking like he was having some fun at the bars, at Super Bowl parties. But his body language and his facial expression didn't match someone who had been partying and having a good time. In fact, he seemed worried. And that's when he came in and he said, where's Pete? And we said, Pete's in his room. And he starts to pace on over to Pete's room and he starts hammering on the door, Pete! And Pete's not answering. At this point in time, we hear a big thud and Jeff kicks down the door. He kicks it down. He kicks down the door and that's when we hear a scream. And we get up from the couch and we run back there and we find our friend hanging from the ceiling fan with electrical cord. And not long before that, I actually noticed that Pete got out of his room and went back into his room with electrical cord. I thought it was odd, but I didn't think too much of it. I didn't have the tools at the time. I understood that Pete might have been experiencing some depressive type symptoms, but I had no idea that there was suicidal ideation. Never in my wildest dreams could I contemplate that someone would be grabbing electrical cord to hang themselves from the ceiling fan on Super Bowl Sunday while the rest of us are just in the living room. So as we get him down from the ceiling fan, his older brother, Jeff, is giving him CPR, and we're calling the ambulance. And now remember, this was just minutes before this. The commentary was about Peyton Manning, such a proud older brother of his younger brother winning the Super Bowl. And here we have two of my good friends, one of my friends who has just hung himself, and another one of my friends, his older brother, who is literally pulling him down from the ceiling fan, giving him CPR. You can imagine how that felt, right? And just the dichotomy of that. So the rest of the night we spent in the hospital. And Pete stayed on life support for about a week, maybe it was 2 weeks, until his family made the inconceivable and correct decision to pull the plug. And I tell you that story for several reasons. The first of being, I understand that we're all survivors of suicide in this room. Secondly, I tell that story to bring about emotions, and it's an invitation to notice how you're feeling. So in these next few minutes, or even few seconds, notice if there's any swirling thoughts. Notice if your heart is racing. Notice where in your body you're feeling this, right? Because this is the opportunity that we have to lean into this discomfort, to feel these feelings so that we can move through them. As we go through this journey of highs and lows in the next hour or so, I should check the time because I think we started a little bit early, but with that as well, understand that the secret to overcoming overwhelm is that there's nothing to overcome. You see, it's that energy of trying to overcome something that keeps us stuck. It's that lack of acceptance. It's that resistance. And this is what we're going to dive into today. So right now, since there's a little bit of a heavier energy, I hope you can feel this heavy energy so that we can move through it. The first thing that I'd like to invite us to do is just to shake it out. That was a lot, right? Just take your wrists, your arms, and just shake it out. Just shake it out. Yeah, just let it out. You can put your arms back down. And what we're going to talk about right here is energetic hygiene. You see, there's constantly different energies being exchanged. In fact, science teaches us that our bodies has a 90-second physiological response when we experience an emotion. And you see, emotions are energy in motion. So if we don't allow ourselves to feel these energies, well, those energies get stuck and they get stored in the body. We start ignoring it, and then we're stacking more and more energy, versus if we can give ourselves 2 minutes to feel that emotion and to allow it to move through us. So what we're going to do is a simple practice of something called a lion's breath. It's an ancient yogic breathwork practice that's really good to relieve stress, anxiety, tension, and frankly, I like it because it's a reminder to play and not take life too seriously. So what we'll do is we're going to inhale all the way up through the nose, look at your nose, stick your tongue out like Gene Simmons, and let it all go. Sound good? I'll do it first. I'll demonstrate first. So one thing I really would like to encourage and invite everyone here to think about is as you're inhaling up, allow yourself to feel a denser, heavier emotion. Maybe it's something that came up just right now in hearing this story, or maybe it's something that came up earlier in the day, or maybe it's something you've been holding on to for the past few weeks, months, or even years. Allow yourself to feel that as you inhale. Then when we exhale, we're going to get it out of our energetic field. We're going to send it back to the land. We're giving it back to the earth. The earth can carry that energy. And this is energetic hygiene. So it'll look like this. I'll do it first. Inhaling through the nose. Looking at the nose, stick out the tongue like Gene Simmons. You guys ready? All right. Big inhale all the way up through the nose. Inhale up. Think about that thing that you want to let go of. Look at your nose. Stick out your tongue like Gene Simmons and exhale. Let it out. Let it go. Nicely done. Give yourselves a hand. Well done. Well done. Well, that's a warm-up. That's a practice. We're going to do one more, all right? So on this one, go ahead and inhale up through the nose. Hold that breath. Think about that thing you want to release. Look at your nose. Stick out your tongue like Gene Simmons and let it out. Nicely done. See, we can start to feel like we're moving some energy, right? Well, one last time for good measure, okay? Inhale all the way up. Think about that thing that you want to let go of. Look at your nose. Stick out your tongue like Gene Simmons and let it out. All right, give yourselves a hand. That was great. That was great. Now, the point of doing that exercise was so that we could all feel this collective energy, because I hope that each and everyone noticed that when I was speaking about witnessing my friend who had hung himself, how there was a stillness, there was a heaviness, there was a denseness in the room and with each and every one of us. And remember that science teaches us we can process these emotions in 90 seconds. Well, what did we just do? We just took a couple of minutes to allow ourselves to feel that emotions, and look at all the laughter and the smiles and the lightness in the room. You know, this isn't just like woo-woo nonsense. It's actually backed by science. It's called the 90-second rule. Our bodies process emotions in 90 seconds.
So you just watched how I opened this keynote with talking about my story of being a survivor of suicide. Now, one thing I want to share with you is that one person came up to me afterwards and that she said she just lost her nephew to suicide also on Super Bowl Sunday. When we were having this conversation, I was getting chills, she got chills. And that's when I really knew and it clicked for me. It was like, yes, this was a clear message of me being a vessel. So again, this whole video is about intuition and about discernment. It's about slowing down and to get rid of all those chaotic thoughts and clear out your feelings so that you can receive these messages from your higher self. So if you dug this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. And if you're interested in working with me, I do keynote experiences, breathwork journey experiences, and one-on-one coaching as well. See you on the next video.